From 14 News, this is Touchdown Live in the Huddle, your live streaming pregame football show. Sponsored by Chick-fil-A West Evansville. Delivery from us to you. Order ahead through the Chick-fil-A app.
Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. We are oh so close to week 7 of high school football here in the Tri-State.
That's right, Max. So thanks for joining us on In the Huddle, our weekly show previewing some big matchups, diving into big plays, and hearing from the coaches and players who make it all happen.
Oh, yeah, we've got it all. But before we jump right in and find out who the fans voted in our Week 6 Player of the Week race, let's dial the clock back and head out to talk with last week's winner, Gibson Southern's very own dual-threat quarterback, Tanner Boyd. We're here with our Week 5 Player of the Week winner. Tanner, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, so, I mean, your stats spoke for themselves, and the fans got right behind you. 122 pass yards, 104 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns in a big win over Southridge, 38-10. Just talk me through that performance.
Well, you know, I can't do it without my guys up front and my guys outside. I mean, they contribute just as much as I do.
All right, well, so we've got our Player of the Week pigskin here. There you go, sir. You've earned it. I want to hear a little bit more. Yeah, you've got fans behind you, too, cheering you on. Where has this team really gone from the beginning of the season to all that you guys have done as of late?
I just think from the beginning, from week 1, we have grown so much. I think our younger linemen have just excelled from where they were at the beginning to now. So I just think at that front we have just been phenomenal so far.
You've got guys coming around behind you just going, love you, Tanner, for folks that can't hear. I mean, what's it like to have that support from your guys around you?
It's wonderful. You know, just people just supporting me, and I just try to support them, and we just grow together week in, week on. So.
All right, what else are you looking to get done as the season continues on? We're already through the halfway point. What do you guys want to do to wrap things up?
We want to finish strong. We want to finish the season going 3-0, and then looking forward to the playoffs.
All right, well, Tanner Boyd, thank you so much. Congrats again, our Week 5 Player of the Week, and we will see you next time. All right, well, now it's time for the moment of truth. Who will be this week's winner, Mitch? It was an exciting week for voting. We had our most votes of the year and also one of our closest races.
That's right, Max. Thanks to everyone, of course, for getting those votes in. Keep it up. We appreciate it.
But you know how it goes. We can only have one Player of the Week, and it's time. Our Week 6 winner, according to the fan vote, is Jaron Johnson of the Union County Braves.
That's right. The Braves signal caller went to work on the ground. Take a look behind me right here at what he was able to do. 22 carries for 255 yards, 4 touchdowns as the Braves defeat McLean County 42-30. Union County improves to 6-0. Tearing it up this year. We'll hear from Jaron on next week's episode of In the Huddle. Congrats, my man.
All right, coming up on In the Huddle, it's time for our Tri-State Insider segment. We reveal our game of the week, and Mitch puts on his analysis hat and gives us an inside look with a game preview.
And you can't break down the plays without talking to the men who come up with them. We'll hear from both coaches to let us know what to expect. Stick around.
Welcome back to In the Huddle. It's time to rock and roll with our Tri-State Insider. Mitch, here's your breakdown hat for you. We're ready to go.
Thanks, King. Max, we've been at this for a few weeks now. Never gets old. Excited to hop into Week 7, if you can believe it.
It's crazy to hear out loud. Check it out. If you're new here, this is where we break down our Touchdown Live Game of the Week. Mitch was a state champ with Southridge and then played in college for Ball State. Chirp, chirp. Now he's here as we talk about the biggest plays, who to watch out for, and of course, we'll finish up with Carter's call, a tough one this week, where he picks who's coming out on top.
That's right. I took one on the chin in Week 1, but we've been cruising since then, 5-1.
Oh, yeah. We're looking forward to seeing who you pick for our game of the week this week. And speaking of that, you want to tell him or should I tell him?
I got it.
All right.
We've been here before. One of the great natural stadiums in the nation, over 100 years old. Pretty iconic seating at the house up on the hill. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I sure do. We're gearing up for what could be the game of the year in the Wrights Bowl. We're talking undefeated number 2 and 3 Wrights versus Memorial. My friend, this may be one of your toughest games to choose yet, but we'll get to that soon.
Right.
These are two teams we featured on Game of the Week before, with Wrights actually holding the spot last week as they dismantled Castle 38-17. And believe it or not, Mitch, that's the most points Coach Corey Brunson's squad has let up all year long.
And then you've got Memorial, who is fresh off a tightrope act against Bosse, pulling out the close one 27-26, just barely fending off Elijah Wagner and the Bulldogs. Coach John Hurley's squad has been bit by the injury bug, but they've managed to hang on to that spotless record so far.
Mitch, both of these teams have only let up 45 points this season. It feels like with this matchup, we have to talk defense. You briefly mentioned already that Wrights let up 17 in the first half to Castle, but then they put that clamp down in the second half and didn't let up another point. Clearly that defense goes a long way.
You're absolutely right, Max. I mean, defense wins championships, simple as that. You know, we know these two teams have firepower on the offensive side of the ball, but in order to outpace opponents like they have, the defense has got to put the ball into their hands and keep opponents off the field. Now, luckily for us, both teams got to show up a bit on defense in their Week 6 games. Let's check it out real quick. Starting with the Memorial D, here's Elijah Wagner backed into the corner all the way in the end zone. We know what he can do on his feet, but he gets wrapped up right there by Quezmanio Jean, and the rest of the defense gets right on top of him there, setting up a safety on the very next play for Memorial. In a one-point game, you could argue this legitimately made all the difference. Then over to Paradise, where Wrights was standing on business for back-to-back plays. You just saw it. Max McCool leveled by Levi Oxley and Caleb Utley. And then on 4th and 6, you just saw it there. Antonio Harris gets hit by Sitzman. And again, Caleb Utley right there, turnover on downs. Now, two teams we know for a fact that can lay it down on Friday night, picking up huge stops and turnovers for their respective ball clubs. But only time will tell who's going to break first.
All right, the big story is obviously just how intense those two defenses are, but they can score points too.
That's right. Memorial has put up 168 points this year. Wrights, 223, something light, with 107 in just the last 2 weeks. So I expect to see the Panthers out in force like always, but Memorial kind of a mystery right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned the injury bug for Memorial earlier on in this segment. We saw it against Bosse starter Matthew Fisher out, now replaced by signal caller Will Pedke. And you've got a slew of running backs taking the snaps in place of Porter Road.
Right.
Let's go ahead and check out the Tigers last week in their barn burner against Bosse.
Let's do it. Here's Will Pedke handing off to Donovan Baker in place of Porter Road. Sheds a tackle and gets big on him there, throwing a shoulder there. Getting in there for the score. They'd later on get the 2-point conversion, leading 10-6. Check out Pedke here for a second. On Friday, they went Wildcat a bit, but here he is calling his own number, spins out, takes a shot, and there goes the ball, popping it out there. Pedke gets his reps in, but you hate to see that kind of turnover from your next man up. But here he is later on in the game right here, calling his number one more time. Here he is laying it on the line for the team, going out here and taking a shot right there in the knees. Youch, flipping over like that. You don't like that for your quarterback, but that's the kind of play right there that gets teams fired up. That's the kind of stuff that would keep teams together and kind of build that chemistry and that sort of, confidence in him as they move forward. That's the kind of stuff you need, especially going to take on a team like Wrights.
No doubt about that. And we're going to be waiting on bated breath here to see if Fisher or Road end up playing. So far, no indication either way. I talked to Coach Hurley this week, and I, gave out the old, how they doing? And he said, they're getting better every day. I should have known I needed to be more specific. Not too much on the information front there, but we know Coach Brunson on the side of Wrights, they're prepping for both.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned Coach Brunson because we're going to take a second here to talk Panther offense. Check out some highlights from last week. Here comes Ben Davies setting up in the pocket where he finds Hayden Summers for the nice quick toss right there. Good catch by number 7 in traffic. Getting tackled there, but adding on to his totals for the night. Earlier on, we see this gem here. We know him, Roland Vera Jr. catching that screen, taking it up the field, slicing and dicing for a nice little game into the red zone. Well, that Panther offense needs no introduction here. We know they can score. We've seen it. We've talked the numbers. We know how it goes.
All right, it's time. Undefeated versus undefeated, Mitch. What do we think? Who we taking?
Well, let's call a spade here. This matchup, likely for the conference championship. Two undefeated teams going head-to-head. We'll be keeping an eye on who takes the start under center, of course, for the Tigers. But I can't help but wonder if Wrights doesn't find a way to run away with this one. This is a team that's fully hit their stride right here as we kind of stare down the back end of the end of the season here. But Memorial is undefeated for a reason. We saw it against Bosse. Those guys are tough kids over there. I'm personally, just like you, so excited for this one. We could be looking at our game of the year like you mentioned, but on Friday night, I think the train keeps it rolling. Give me the Panthers.
All right, the call is in, Mitch. It's a big one. But before we move along to hear from our Game of the Week coaches, earlier this week we took a look at another team that is off to their best start in over 2 decades. Let's check in with Webster County.
Let's do it, Max. This team is off to their best start since 2002, and that was quite a good year for the Trojans. Now, they finished 12-2 and made a deep playoff run all the way to the Class 2A semifinals. Since that amazing season 21 years ago, there have been a few other good years, but mostly the program's really struggled in the last 10 to 15 years to have any kind of consistent success.
Well, Mitch, that all began to change last season when Webster County went 4-7 with several of those losses by just 1 score. Now turn the page to 2023. Those close losses have turned into wins as the team has learned how to win and bought into their team system.
And I told them they remind me a lot of our 12-2 team and how they're acclimating and doing the things that we've asked them to do. The transition's been very smooth. It worked out. We just have been building off from the end of last year, and that's what we're just continuing doing, just climbing up the mountain and trying to get to that peak of where we're wanting to go.
It's just a whole nother atmosphere you can be a part of. I mean, everybody's just into it now. Coach Mullins brought us to a great place with this winning record that we have. It's pretty nice.
I just love this team and love playing football.
All right, coming up on In the Huddle, don't go anywhere. As we promised, we'll hear from our head coaches for both of our Game of the Week teams, and we'll dig into their game plans and how they're preparing when we come back.
Well, just like he said there, I also love football in this game, so I'll take you right back to my favorite spot in the studio, the Telestrator, and take a look at some of the best plays from Week 6 with an in-depth look at how they played out.
Welcome back in, everyone. So our Game of the Week, let's get back right to it because it's a big one. Memorial Rights at the Rights Bowl. Should be a packed house, but these coaches know their teams can't get caught up in the hype. They've got to stick to business. Up first, we check in with Rights. As we mentioned earlier, the big question mark for Coach Brunson when preparing for Memorial involves these guys right behind me, Matthew Fisher and Porter Road. Will the Tigers have their starting quarterback and running back duo? If not, he knows there are plenty of other players on that roster they need to key in on. Let's hear from Coach Brunson.
We prepare for both. We just don't know. I mean, we don't want to not prepare for one and they play. And I go, oh, no, okay. But definitely those two definitely make a, they're 2 different teams with those guys out there. But when they're not in there, they're still pretty dangerous. They still have some guys that can do some good things. So we definitely can be prepared no matter who's out there. Number 3, Elfsprint, he's a really good player. I mean, he makes a lot of plays for him, and he's definitely one that jumps out. Definitely with him and without him, he makes a lot of plays. But up front defensively, I mean, them and ourselves we're both number 1 conference defensively. They got a lot of guys defensively that fly around, make some plays. So they're a very good ball club.
Over to Memorial, head coach John Hurley knows this is a big game, but at the same time recognizes that they can't get distracted by this big atmosphere. He's got to get his team playing their game clean and worrying about themselves first.
It's definitely the game of the week because it's the only one either one of us have. And, we'll see how it goes once the game gets going, whether you could call it the game of the year. But really, it's a Week 7 game, and you approach it that way to some extent, but it's going to be a great environment. Definitely a playoff atmosphere on Friday night. They're good across the board. You could start with Vera and work your way backwards. Summers kid's unbelievable. Davies does a nice job pushing the ball down the field. Up front, they do a good job. The Oxley kid, and then you got the kid the other kid on the other side. I mean, they've got guys all over the place. So, you can't spend too much time worrying about everybody. You got to start worrying about what you do and try to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do.
This matchup is going to be a battle in a great atmosphere. Make sure to join me live at 4, 5, and 6 tomorrow at the Rights Bowl here on 14 News as we break down the game and check out some key players to watch out for before kickoff. Now it's time to dial the clock back to last week as Mitch is over at the Telestrator ready to break down some big ones from last week. Mitch?
Well, thank you, Max. Right now, we're staring down those final few games of the season, but we've seen heaters week in and week out, and that didn't change one bit in Week 6. Let's get right into it here. First clip headed to Romaine, where the Warriors of Harrison are hosting the Vincent's Lincoln Alice's. Right here, backup quarterback Luke Lindsay gets the start. You can't see him right here. He's hiding behind 21, but before we get rolling, you got to check this out. Circling the tackle here, the tight end and sort of our running back wing combo here. Watch as these three gentlemen clean up shop to open up all the lanes for a filthy quarterback power. Let's go ahead and clean this up and let's roll that clip. Right away, Luke Lindsay, like I said, there he is, out the gate, number 12, slicing and dicing. People are on the ground, catching bodies, not even looking back. There he goes, end zone on his mind, taking advantage of the start, showing off those wheels for a 60-yard touchdown, putting Lincoln up by 7, and with a 47-0 final, they handled their business without a starting quarterback. All right, so now to Illinois. We hadn't seen Mount Carmel since their opening week 7-point loss to Gibson Southern. Since then, they've rattled off 3 straight wins when they welcomed in Paris. Let's go ahead and roll it. Right away. As we get going here, let's stop right here. Now, clearly, what this is called here, this is a quarterback read from Blaine Sisson into what looks like a quarterback design run. You can see right here his eyes are on number 56, and you've also got to keep an eye on this outside linebacker here, number 9. So, in this instance, if 56 chases the running back down the line, the pulling guard here, you can kind of see his helmet would actually wrap around here and trap him, eliminating him and freeing up the other puller for number 9 right here. I'm clearing up this mess a little bit here. Now, if 56 decides to skate outward, this pulling guard can come and knock him out. Drew a pair of glasses right there, eliminating him and maybe even number 9 with the other puller pulling all the way through the hole here, lighting things up here, leading the way, hitting the first opposite colored jersey, opening things up for the quarterback. Now, luckily for Sisson and the Golden Aces, he goes down and he goes out. All he's got to do is make one person break a tackle and bounce outside. We end up getting plays just like this one right here. Let's go ahead and roll it. Right away, Blaine slicing and dicing right here, weaving his way through defenders, bobbing all the way through, makes a man miss, and it's off to the races, taking defenders all the way home for 6 right there. Mount Carmel goes on to win big, adding to their streak, 49-7 over Paris. All right, now let's switch over to another incredible matchup Friday night involving unbeaten 5-0 Heritage Hills, who made the trip to Fort Branch to take on 3-2 Gibson Southern. Now we're jumping in to take a look at sophomore quarterback Jet Goldsberry right here taking the snap. Let me clear this up and let's go ahead and run it. Right away off the rip, he takes the snap. No one's open. See his eyes. He takes off running here to the right, and he keeps rolling, and he keeps rolling, and stop right here. Under pressure right there. Did I mention he's a sophomore? On the run, getting hit, ball barely out of his hands. You can see this guy right here laying a lick on him. Like I said, did I mention he's a sophomore? That's a young cat coming into enemy territory and being asked to play not only the game of his life, but in pressure like this, getting hit like this, getting hit the whole game. But big-time players make big-time plays. Let me clear this up. Let's roll it. Let's see it. Look at the throw and the catch here, high pointing it right over top the defender and complete to Hunter Meredith. Gets brought down there after the big gain, and it was a close one late, but Gibson Southern hangs on just barely to win it 31-28, knocking off the undefeated Patriots.
Coming up, we're leaving the huddle and going in the red zone. Stick around to see which player Aaron Hancock got hold of this week.
And we'll break down the schedules for the other games in our area as we dial it in for Week 7 on the Gridiron.
Welcome back to our final segment of In the Huddle. Before we take a look at this week's slate, our Aaron Hancock has been out and about this week to bring a player in the red zone.
We'll send it right out to you, Aaron. Let's see what he's got.
All right, guys, we're here with Jackson Edens of Webster County Football. Jackson, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. All right, let's get this going. What is your favorite pregame hype-up song?
I mean, it wouldn't be no like rock or anything like that. It'd probably be something about a little 00, probably. That's probably what I'd listen to before a game. Get hype.
All right. What's your favorite pregame meal?
Probably Subway sandwich. That's probably what I'd eat.
All right, sounds good. What is your favorite Coach Milam quote?
That is a hard one. Probably never surrender. I like that one.
All right. What is your favorite NFL team?
Probably go with Dolphins.
All right, they're playing well right now. All right, what is your favorite food?
Pizza.
All right, ketchup or mustard?
Ketchup.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Favorite color?
Blue.
What is your favorite subject in school?
Math.
All right, who is the biggest team prankster?
Probably myself.
All right, and that will do it, guys. Thanks to Jackson for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we'll throw it back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Great stuff. Now it's time to take a look at some more games across the tri-state. Let's get you all pumped up for our Week 7 slate and take a look at what we have on deck. Coming up first in town, Mater Dei heading over to play the Bossy Bulldogs. That kickoff at 6:30. Same with the Harrison Central game. That one 6:30 as well. Moving right along, Vincennes Lincoln travels to play North as Castle travels to play Jasper. Both those games also at 6:30. Heritage Hills travels to Mount Vernon to face off against the Wildcats. Meanwhile, Boonville travels to play Princeton. Both those games at 7 o'clock. Mitch, what games do you have that you're keeping your eyes on?
You know, I've always got my eyes on a few. Let's start off across the Ohio, down in Kentucky. Todd County Central headed out to Owensboro Catholic. Now, not originally scheduled as a home game for Catholic, but due to some storm damage to Todd County Central facilities, it's moved to Aces Country. Then you've got Marshall County also heading into Davis County to take on the Red Devils of Owensboro High School. Then back here in the Hoosier State, you've got Gibson Southern taking the drive to Washington, looking to add another W to their record when they take on the Hatchets. And an interesting one in Poseyville, where the Forest Park Rangers are taking on the North Posey Vikings, 4-2 versus 5-1. And finally, the Southridge Raiders heading into Rebel Country over in South Spencer, looking to notch yet another conference win, while the Mount Carmel Golden Aces look to extend their win streak as they head out to Olney to take on the Tigers.
All right, thank you all so much for watching this week's episode of Touchdown Live in the Huddle, our pregame show. We hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at some of the best football teams across the tri-state area.
That's right. We'll be back each Thursday night at 7 o'clock to preview teams in creative ways. As always, this would not have been possible without our entire production crew and marketing team. Thank you for all the work you've put in to make this whole thing happen.
And for highlights of all your favorite games that we talked about tonight, be sure to join us back here for our Touchdown Live show every Friday night on our 14 Sports app at 10:35. And then, of course, we'll feature our express version on 14 News at 10. We'll see you there.